Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Trent?
I'm wonderful.
Well, I am so happy that you are sitting down and taking some time to talk with us today.
Yes.
You are our last Artist of the Week reveal, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So, really quick introduction. I've known Trent since college. We met um, crafting
Yeah.
essentially in my sorority house. He was an art guy, I was an art girl, and so we hung out a lot, and then I
Yes.
became best friends with his now wife. So
Yes.
so we've stayed connected, but
Mm-hmm.
that art part has
Yeah.
always been
The
us.
real connection.
The
That's
real
the real
connection.
connection.
I know, poor Lauren. She just doesn't have it. It's just
No.
you and me, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Um, so this week I asked you to choose a graphic designer, or I guess is that what you would refer to them as, graphic designers or
Yeah.
brand
Yeah,
like
it's such a broad spectrum. So this is what I consider especially successful graphic designer.
okay.
So,
Well, I asked you to pick your favorite because you
yeah.
are a successful graphic designer and photographer. Um, and so you picked out Davy and Krista, which is who
Mhm.
everyone has been critiquing this week. So we're going to get into them here in a few minutes. But first, I want people to learn a little bit more about you, Trent.
Got it.
Trent Broglin of Trent Broglin Photography. This is so crazy because, I mean, you were already a professional in college.
I technically started when I was 15 years old. So I shot my first wedding when I was 15 and then just kind of built it up in high school and then went to school for it. And so I've been doing it a long time now.
You shot your
Very long
first
time.
wedding when you were the same age as most of my students.
Yeah,
Many of
my
them
mom
not
had
having a driver's
yeah, my
license.
mom had to drive me. So that there's that story that I could not drive to the first wedding I shot. So,
Oh my gosh. And
yeah,
these are weddings. Like these are
real weddings. Real
holy
weddings.
cow. Well, that makes sense because I know when I met you, you were already established. You already had a following, and people knew you were an incredible photographer. But you were going through to get your bachelor's in what is your
By
bachelor's?
BFA photography,
In photography.
which you kind of do a little bit of everything
Yeah,
with that.
you took like all the different art
When
classes.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. So now, as an adult, you want to talk about what your life looks like now and how that's evolved from being a wedding photographer and going through
Yeah,
college to now.
yeah. So I would say photography is still the primary business part of what I do. So I shoot lots of high school seniors, weddings. I do some branding shooting for different businesses, headshots. Um,
And I have
Still do some families and things like that. Yeah, there's some of the seniors.
some
Um,
seniors.
and
I love these.
whenever I started, I did for my high school seniors, I did do something a little bit different where I started doing styled sessions. So I actually work with a group of stylists and hair and makeup artists that are on site for the full session. They help accessorize your outfits, they help you pick your outfits. And then also do your hair and makeup, switch it up throughout the session. So I've started that a few years ago, and it's been very, very popular, as you can imagine. And so yeah, it's makes the whole experience way more fun than just going into a studio and having some pictures taken. So
It's a full
that's one of my
package.
favorite things. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I do with my high school seniors.
Yeah, so you have seniors, you have, and I should tell everyone that you live in St. Louis.
I do.
So you're not at Kansas City, but you're not that far.
No, I do shoot weddings in Kansas City every now and then. So I visit often and I have many friends there too.
But
So
yeah, you have to visit me. So,
Yes,
I
of
mean,
course.
that happens. So,
Yes.
but you are based out of St. Louis,
Hmm.
and yeah, and so weddings as well, and then like families and
Hmm.
engagements and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. If you look at his website, you can kind of see a lot of those things up top. So, yeah, you're really the jack of all trades. You've got all kinds. and
Yeah.
and then
And
watching you transform into graphic design
yeah.
and branding.
Yes. Yeah, that it was kind of one of those things that whenever I got into it and I had to take a class in college, I was really interested in it. I had only ever used Photoshop before going to school, and then getting into Illustrator and InDesign, and doing kind of layouts and learning a lot about typography and stuff. I really liked the branding aspect graphic design, as well as doing stationery, so invitations, even stuff for businesses, business cards, things like that. It seems like it could be boring, but I always like to make sure that something stands out. So that's always the challenge, is to design something that not everyone has.
And Trent has the most incredible Christmas cards. Always has. Every year, we're always waiting for the Broglin Christmas card. So good. But I mean, it's what you do. And so it's always
Yeah,
different. It's always awesome and
yeah,
beautiful and well done. So thank you for sharing. You guys can check
yeah.
out his website. Let's go ahead and jump into one of your favorites, Davey and Krista. Will you tell us a little bit about what they do and why you like them so much?
Got it. So they mainly do branding and website design. So with the branding aspect, whenever I was, to be honest, whenever I was going through my rebrand for my business, it's something that I personally couldn't decide because I knew there were so many options. So I personally hired a graphic designer to
Oh,
take my inspiration and create something because I needed something really, someone to narrow it down for me. And so that's what Davey and Krista do. They're a husband and wife team, which I think is super cool. As well as they do have a team that works with them. But I think it's
I
cool
think
whenever you
there's
see,
their team.
yeah, those two kind of collab on business and the art aspect of graphic design, um, and just create branding for all of these different businesses. And with being a, a branding expert, they are able to take people's ideas and whatever their style of their brand and create something out of that. So it's not something like if you're a painter or something that you're going to stick with the exact same stylistic like ways that you normally do. You can see there is consistency, especially if you look through their Instagram. But I will tell you, they probably show what they want to be hired to do, which is what I do as well on my social media pages. You kind of show what you want to be hired to do. So, but it is very consistent, even though it is very different and brand specific to each business they're working with. So that's what I really like. I like their consistency, but still it's very unique, what they do for other clients, for their clients.
Well, and I love that you wanted to talk about this and branding in particular, or really just graphic design, because we
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten to showcase graphic design. We did just finish for Design and Draw, our intro class just did a graphic design unit where they dabbled in Illustrator. So you mentioned
Got it.
Illustrator a little bit.
Yes.
And then we have
Yes.
graphic designers participating in this too, in my just which have done Illustrator and Photoshop. And I just think like the other pieces that we've put on here, as incredible and as interesting and unique as they are, um, most of the time they're paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that is real life application right now. If
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to be creative and still be an artist,
Mm-hmm.
but tie that into being a successful business person
Yeah.
and like
Exactly.
sustaining yourself and like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it works in and then it helps that you're so personable. I think that's a big part of it too. Not all artists are super personable. So,
Yeah.
um, you're a people person, and so it
Yes,
all
I
kind of
do love people.
ties together.
So
Yeah, you've always,
these past couple of months has not been good for me at all.
yeah.
Just sitting in my office working. I'm used to interacting on a weekly basis, so this has not been my cup of tea, that's for sure.
Well, tell us, what does that look like, honestly, being home? Because I know we all have our struggles, and I
Yeah.
imagine with wedding season happening right now and all the
Hmm.
weddings that are now not happening,
Yeah.
how has that affected you?
So I'm not gonna lie, it's been good because whenever you are photographing lots, you're doing lots of editing. So that's what your time with the computer is spent. But whenever you're an artist, a creative person, you make lists of things you want to accomplish or achieve, as well as being a business owner. So I've been working on those lists in the
Okay.
meantime, which is exciting. Kind of revamping stuff, as well as doing some other jobs, a couple of graphic design jobs for invitations, things like that are still happening. I was fortunate enough to shoot right before everything closed down. I had a full weekend of shoots, 3 shoots back to back. So I did have editing to do during this
Okay.
time, as well as I did a couple of weeks ago. I shot one of my weddings that got postponed. They end up doing a backyard wedding just to actually get married, and then they're postponing the full wedding till a later date. So I did go and photograph that at a social distance, which
Yeah.
was interesting, but I don't know.
Well,
It was
usually
something
hands
different.
on.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
something really different. I had a different perspective of things because it wasn't all about the flowers and the all of
Yeah.
the glitz and glam of weddings. It was really just about the couple and the emotion and stuff. So it was cool to just sit back and look at that and capture it. Yeah, it was cool either way, but
Yeah.
it was definitely different during this time. But this time I've not just wasted sitting. I've
That's
literally been working hours every day trying to finish my to-do list, and I still, you know, keep adding to that to-do list. So
of
it's
course.
never ending.
I mean, I think that's partly why you're so successful, is that you are always doing something new and always
Yeah,
pushing yourself and pushing your
yeah.
brand. Also, you have the sweetest little baby at home and a
She
lovely
is.
wife who's a teacher as well. So I
Yes.
know she's busy. So
Yes.
you've got your hands full. I was not worried
Absolutely.
about you sitting there. Trust me, that's never crossed my mind.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, let's jump in really quick. So this is what our students looked at. And can you tell us a little bit about this Dear Catherine and what you think this is for Davy and Krista?
Yeah, so Dear Catherine is a brand that they worked on for a stationeer. So someone who designs wedding invitations, calligraphy, that sort of thing. So um, you can see that it is, I would say it's very classic, still being a little bit modern, but I would think more classic, which is what a lot of the higher end wedding invitations are that you see for the big weddings. But yeah, this branding I think is very consistent, but it's a really good mix of kind of like old, modern, and classic. Just kind of by like you can see like the design and number 4, that background just reminds me of something really modern. It's not something that I would say would be like vintagey or anything, but it still pairs well with like a classic script font on number 1. But I think it's cool that they give their clients this many variations for branding because you don't want to stick with the exact same logo on every single thing that you do. You can use like different color schemes, you can use the different layouts, even the different fonts on different placement, either on your website, on packaging, um, on social media, but it still ties together without being so repetitive and boring. So um, I this you can kind of see that it's very consistent, but it is still different.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you can see
Yeah.
number 5 was used. I clipped their
Mhm.
website, and here's the website too if you guys want to check it out, but was used right at the top, but you can just see how the different variations have ended up probably all over, like
Yeah.
not just sticking to one. So, so let's see what the students thought. We had
Yeah.
like, I think a lot of students didn't know what to do
Yeah.
because like I kind of mentioned to you before, they're used to seeing a painting or something
Yeah.
where they're trying to interpret like the story of what's happening in the painting or the mood of the painting, and instead they're presented with just like a completely different kind of art.
Mhm.
But we had some really awesome responses. Olivia C said the designs are the same without the exceptions such as color and font. However, it really sticks to the same elegant look. So she's talking about that
Perfect.
consistency that
Mm-hmm.
you said, as if it were a jewelry logo or some trendy clothes shop. I think that the third one really fits like a jewelry shop, but number 4 feels like something more expensive clothes. So without knowing that this is, I mean, you can't read that it says stationery or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
She's still seeing that it's some kind of high brand, like nice, yeah, like almost feminine response.
Yeah.
If it's something more laid back, then number 5 would do it. Overall, every design is beautiful, fits the theme of expensive, trendy, and elegant all at once. So
Good words. Yeah.
yeah, I think those were what stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Expensive, trendy, and elegant, somehow all working together, especially
Yes.
elegant and trendy. That could be tricky. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
obviously they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, if you know you've spent your money well, is if someone looks at your brand and automatically thinks it's expensive just based on your logo. So
Hey,
that's
well
good.
done. Rin S is the next one. Rin said all of the designs are very close to the same, so they all kind of tied on like, okay, obviously this all goes together. The only clear difference is the layout. Each logo looks reminiscent of the logo used for a boutique, so same kind of feeling. And I put this in
Mm-hmm.
there because I saw this consistently come up
Yeah.
in different classes. So used for a boutique or other fashion business. They give off a cool, calm, and collected vibe with the color scheme, but the logo fonts give it a hint of elegance. So,
Perfect. And
same.
I will say the word boutique is really good too. Often I use the word boutique experience for different things. So that's cool that just from looking at this brand that word comes up. So
And what is boutique experience? What does that mean if you're
um,
saying? Like, I mean, I can
just
imagine, but
yeah.
what?
So it's very like personalized to you, and where you're kind of the star of the show. You're treated like the star of the whole thing, which is kind of like if you went into a clothing boutique, they really want to sell you clothes, so they're going to make sure they treat you the best. They're going to get you some water, some things that you wouldn't get when
Some
you walk
cucumber
into,
water and
yeah, like you're not going to get that when you walk into like American Eagle or something.
right.
So
Old Navy, yeah. It's
yeah,
not.
exactly.
I mean, they really should work on that,
Yeah.
but okay, last one. So I just pulled this out because I thought it was interesting. And so Elijah commented, said similar things about like, this looks really elegant. I
Mm-hmm.
think he mentioned like, it's not really my style, but I can see how it all
Yeah.
goes together and it looks expensive. But then at the end, he said, maybe these logos are a progression from first to final draft, which I thought was just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and I like that he's seeing it as like obviously this all goes together,
Mm-hmm.
but there are these different progressions that you're always going through with your brand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is a progression, or do you think this is just like them giving them lots of options?
So I mean, I've glanced at this brand before, and I thought that I've seen especially the script font somewhere on their branding. So that's why I feel like they use it somewhere else. But it could be that they just decided to use that font as one of their main fonts. But then they stuck with that number 5, Dear Catherine, which is the header of their website.
Yeah, very cool. Interesting way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But can I ask, so because you have your own business,
Mm-hmm.
could you estimate like how many different progressions you think you've been through with your branding, or
Yeah.
with like even just like with something in particular with like your logo, or how many times you feel like you've had to just go back and revamp everything?
Yeah. So I didn't really have a legit logo whenever I was in high school because I
Weird.
was still shooting film. That was before digital
Oh,
cameras. So I
We're aging
did,
ourselves,
yeah.
so.
So I did have a font that I used because all of my photos were foil stamped on the corners
Ooh.
of with Trent Broglin photography. So I just can. That was my font. That's you basically had a list that you could choose from. They ordered a plate, and then that's what they stamped your photos with. So that's what I started with. It was just a font, and then towards the end of college, I did have a graphic designer come up with what I thought. It was before I was really into the business part.
Yeah.
So I just wanted something that was kind of trendy, colors that I liked. And I look back at it now, it's kind of embarrassing. But it was very retro looking. My
I'm
color
sure it's
scheme
not, but maybe compared to what you have now.
compared to now and what I like the knowledge that I have now is that's why.
Okay.
The color scheme was like orange and teal, like pretty bold colors.
Yeah, those are
And
bold.
then it's been at least five. I'm trying to think, at least 5 years since I did like the full rebrand where I did full color scheme, font list, as well as different graphics for my logo. So um,
You did it. It's sweet, girl.
since yeah, I'm like, sorry,
No,
baby
I'm
crying.
sorry. Well, we're almost done. Go tend to that little girl.
So then I've learned to make yourself look expensive and to have people pay prices that you want to be paid for your time. You want something that does look elegant, something that's classic, high end looking. So I transitioned to navy, but I also wanted it masculine, which is sometimes hard to do. When like in the wedding industry, things typically look very feminine. So I do have a dark navy blue that I use as well as gold. There's some variation on grays and light blues that are also in branding. But then I have my crest that you can see right there in my website below the girl that's laying down on the ground. And then the Trent Broglin photography, which was actually handwritten by, it's not a font, it's handwritten by the graphic designer, and then with the photography
Love it.
and a sans serif font underneath to give it a little bit modern, but still kind of classic.
So what I'm hearing is next year when we get to all the typography stuff, you're gonna.
I will say that's what drives me the most crazy is choosing fonts. I think
You don't
it's
automatically
there's
go with Comic Sans. I don't.
definitely not Comic
No.
Sans. I have favorites, but working with people, that's because you want a variety whenever you're doing branding. If you can look at my website, I have like my heading, authentic, fresh, and classic, is a serif font with an italicized at the end to emphasize a word, and then there's sans serif underneath. Then there's a script underneath, which I'm actually getting ready to change that script because I want something that looks a little bit more high end than that one. So I am gonna do that little change shortly. But you can see
Always.
that's when I like it's. This is the homepage to my website, so it's supposed to kind of tell the story of what you do as well as your brand. So that's why there's all the fonts right there, kind of laid out for you, and then you'll see the consistency throughout the rest of my website.
tbroglinphoto.com right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right there,
Yep.
folks. So go check it out. Absolutely. It's incredible. You can also check out daveyandkrista.com or follow either one of you on Instagram or Facebook, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you've got quite a
absolutely.
bit going on.
Yeah,
So,
I'm much better on Instagram than Facebook. So you'll see a lot more consistency then. But yeah, a lot
yeah,
more behind
makes
you. I
sense.
feel like you're able to do a lot more behind the scenes stuff on Instagram since it's instant video right there. So
Yeah. Well, and Instagram, I mean, I guess they're both like photos, but
yeah,
Instagram is all visuals, and that's
yes,
what your job
exactly.
is as an
Yes,
artist, your
exactly.
visuals. So I love it. I'm going to end just with these lovely flashbacks to this is college, me,
Yes.
us all working together on a big Greek jam.
Yes.
Yeah, holy cow,
Why
that
didn't
was
you
a good
put the
time.
you need to put the YouTube link
Oh
so
gosh,
they
so they
can
can
see our
watch.
rotating backgrounds that
We
we
did these
worked all spring break on.
oh my gosh, yeah, there is no time off for Kelsey and
No.
Trent in
No.
college. No way. And then your beautiful wife, of course. That photo was on
Yes.
your website, so I figured I had permission to use it.
Yes.
Miss Lauren, shout out to Lauren. And then, of course, the sweet little baby crying in the background with my Emmy. And so, thank you so much. I know you're busy, and I love you so much.
Yes,
And
I'm so glad you asked me to do this.
yeah, watch out. I might keep asking you to do stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, hey, winning a pandemic,
I know.
a little light
Do
at the
what
end
you
of the
gotta
tunnel.
do. Exactly.
This is awesome. So thank
Yeah.
you, and
Yeah,
you have
thank
a great
you.
night. Yeah.
You as well.